again, thanks for coming. If you didn't already know, please follow us on Twitter because that's the best way we can push out, you know, if we're going to be delayed or obstructed by snow.
Also, for those wondering, tonight's hashtag is TMC tonight.
Yeah.
Feel free to tweet it out to your friends and bubbles.
Yes.
Not to be confused with the network.
Not to be confused with TMC. You can look that up on your own time.
But I would like to give a shout out to our sponsors because without them, tonight would have been a lot more difficult. Particularly BP Studios for doing the video, Smashing Boxes for doing the live streaming and giving us one of the speakers, as well as Scott Evans, Branding and Design Communications, and Jake, what's your company called?
Max Media.
Okay, sorry, I drew a blank. But if you are interested in sponsoring us and getting in on the fun, see me or call after this. Yeah. But let me, without burning too much of the daylight that's left, I want to introduce the speakers. I'm very thrilled to have these guys here, ladies too. First of all, let me introduce Phil Buckley. He's Director of Marketing at Precision Lenders. He's also one of the master networkers in the area. If you don't know him, you need to know him. It's been rumored he makes the internet offers he can't refuse. At any rate, also with us, the lovely Ellen Clemens, Smashing Boxes, marketing guru, and finally Cord Silverstein.
He just launched his own company.
Yes. We'll let
yesterday.
But at any rate, we'll be kind of doing a Q&A with them, and we're going to let them kind of get into the state of marketing. We're going to have a series of questions, and then we'll open up the Q&A from the audience. Other than that, if you have a question, just grab me, because we're going to get them to repeat the question so that it'll go through on air and also to the camera. Let's go from there.
I was also going to say right quick, tonight is our first event, so if you guys have any ideas how we can make this a better organization in the Triangle, feel free to grab me or Chris afterwards.
Are you sitting?
How do you like?
You're much better. Why don't you sit? Yeah, exactly. Me and Phil next to each other just don't work.
Besides, Sarah Bergen.
Sorry, if we need the camera to focus on something.
This is really intense lighting.
Hey, if we could kill those.
Much better. Let's make it romantic in here.
I know. Lighting with some candles. Do you have your answers?
Alright, so if we could start off, if each of the speakers could give us a synopsis of your background in marketing and then what you're currently trying to accomplish or your marketing programs.
You start with me?
We'll go with Cord. We'll let him succeed. Just crank
As
it
Phil takes out his gun.
Yeah, exactly.
Hi folks, my name is Cord Silverstein. I have been working in online marketing and for 15 plus years. I've been specifically focusing on social media for the last 8 or so. I've worked at a number of agencies around here, Capstrat, Ignite Social Media, and my most recent agency I was at was Pace Communications in Greensboro. As was just announced, yesterday, I've been kind of stealth for the last 6 or 8 weeks, and yesterday I announced my own company agency. There's a couple other surprises to come that we're still working on. But
what's the name of that for?
Thank you, Phil. It's called Advocacy Social. You can look at it as advocacysocial.com or at Advocacy Social on Twitter or Advocacy Social on Facebook, along with any other of the social channels that you prefer. So and it's literally focused on what I think we're going to talk about, what I think the next steps of what social is all about around developing true brand advocates for companies and brands.
My name is Ellen Clemens, soon to be Ellen Gowdy. I am really excited to be here, and I'm at Smashing Boxes. We are a web and mobile app development and design firm in Durham. I have been there for about a year, but prior to that, I worked at 2 other startups. So my marketing expertise is mainly in growing startups from small to much larger, and it's a lot of fun.
Then we need to talk.
At us, at Smashing Boxes, we're really focused on brand awareness. We're trying to get our name out there and grow the company. And so that is it's taking the form of a lot of grassroots initiatives. We've launched a code school. We have started a developer meetup called Stacked. We're having our first conference this summer. We are launching some really cool apps out of our labs time where developers and designers get to do whatever they want. So it's a super cool culture, and we're trying to harness that to showcase the brand throughout the region. So thanks for having me, guys.
My name is Phil Buckley. I work at Precision Lender. I've had career ADD for the last 10 years. Worked all over the place. My background is as a developer, a very mediocre developer. Moved over to SEO and then eventually fully into the marketing realm over the last few years. Working at Precision Lender now, which none of you know unless you are in banking. And we are a terribly boring company in a terribly boring industry. So what I've been working on since I've been there is, again, it's going to come back to this brand stuff and telling our story in a compelling way so that people care about us. When you are selling into an industry that is generally a little bit behind the curve, selling on some of the new whiz-bang features doesn't always work, so you have to fall back to kind of the old tried and true methods of marketing and persuasion.
All right, so
I'm sorry, before you get going, for the people who are standing in the back, there's a bunch of seats up here if any of you guys don't want to stand.
A couple of little too.
we
We're
don't
really
want
sweaty up here, but we won't bite you.
We're trying all our shots.
Just trying to help. Trying to help.
I'm like that.
Cole, you don't get to sit.
Yeah, I know.
Kitty organizer, get up. You gotta walk around, brother.
Thank you.
So now that we know a little bit about you guys, what do you guys say is the current state of marketing? Phil comes from an SEO background, and you hear that every day, like companies should try to improve themselves in the rankings. But what is marketing today? Is it online? Is it traditional? What is it overall, you guys think?
Let me start with this one because I got a funny story. So I was just interviewing someone a few days ago, and the first few minutes she says to me, "You guys look like you need some SEO help. You should get someone in there who understands SEO." And I was like, "You are so right." So what she meant is when she Googled words that she thought were accurate for us, we didn't show up. So what I explained to her is nobody searches for us online. And I know that's unusual for a lot of you, especially in the digital space, but we're selling to usually CFOs or people like that at banks. They are not sitting at their desk going, "I wonder if there is a new SaaS platform out there that I can find that will help my lenders be more profitable." Nobody's looking for that online. We only get a couple hundred people a day to our site. Most of it comes directly from people looking for us as a brand name. It's not coming in on pricing and profitability software. Nobody's searching for that. So for us, SEO is so far down the list, even though that's what I know best, I spend almost zero time every month on it. What I'm spending my time on is getting our brand recognition up so that people will do more searches for us as a company, rather than looking for something that nobody knows to look for and nobody knows to search for. So I think as far as search goes, if you've got something, if you're selling video games, you're never going to show up for video games anyway. But if you're selling, what's a big video game?
You're asking the wrong person.
World of
Halo.
Warcraft, how far behind am I?
Halo.
Halo, right, that's a brand, and that's what they'll go look for. So as search has kind of matured over the last 15 years, it's changed from pizza in my city to people looking for very specific things. And trying to show up for these big, broad head terms as a marketing tactic is so expensive and so difficult that it seems like if you took those energy and resources and put it towards more of, let's get people talking about us as a brand and as a company, it's money better spent. Now, that's not to say, you don't go out of your way to be invisible on the web, but it's not the only thing anymore, that's for sure.
Cool. So in my opinion, I think that the focus is turning greatly towards quality and influence. So I think that there's been huge shifts in content, in the last 10 years. A lot of the old media outlets are not the way they used to be. We had YouTube come up, we had all these different ways for people to consume their media. And so I think with that came it gave marketers an opportunity to create content, to be the people pushing content out there. And that led to a lot of probably not so great content. And that's when SEO, was going really strong. And SEO, you can't handle it the same way anymore. And so I think that now the focus is much more on quality, and it's not just about talk. You can't just talk at people. How many CEOs or whoever like to say, okay, our strategy is thought leadership, go. You can't just talk at your audience. You have to engage with them. It has to be an experience. It has to be a give and take. And so I think that's where the trends are going, is towards that quality and that mutual experience.
I forgot the question because Phil went on so long. But, are we on just SEO or the nature of the?
Just the nature of marketing in general. I mean,
Okay. Gotcha.
Isn't a lot of us, especially you guys, know the online space. Should a company invest everything that they should do online, or what should they invest their money in?
I think that.
What's the domain again?
I think that a lot of companies and a lot of brands put a lot of time and money into the easier things than the harder things. And the harder things are being able to actually tell a story of who they are, what they represent, who their customers are. And I think to Ellen's point is then empowering their customers, their target markets, to actually give them something worth talking about. I think instead, SEO, I'm not a monster fan of SEO because I believe that you don't have to touch a website and you write really, really good content to get people talking about it. You're going to get results in SEO as long as your website is technically proficient and can be indexed. So, things like meta tags and keywords and links and all that other crap and everything that is usually the low-hanging fruit that people try on is the easy part, because the harder part is developing really, really good content that's going to get people talking. That takes time, that takes effort, and that's where I think it's empowering users to get them to talk about your brand and not have you just be sitting on your soapbox with a bullhorn talking about it.
So to kind of follow up on that, you mentioned you're not a big fan of SEO.
I'm not a big fan of how, I'm sorry,
Okay,
I'm not a big fan of how certain SEO companies recommend certain things. I think they take advantage of a lot of non-technically proficient or non-SEO savvy companies and individuals.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just using SEO as an example, it has a bad rep to some people, it has a good rep. Some companies make their money on it. Is there a field in particular that you guys see companies continue to invest their money on that you guys say they shouldn't be doing this?
Are you asking me?
In general, anybody, if anybody wants to step up.
Yeah, I'll pile on to what Cord says, which is anything they view as easy, they'll spend more money on. So if you say to a company, why don't, if they get a $100,000 budget, and you say, why don't you spend that on creating great content, getting out and talking to your fans, putting out stuff that's compelling to your audience and interesting that'll get shared over and over again, or you can spend it all buying links, right? One is going to the gym every day, and one is taking the diet pill. They're always going to choose the diet pill. That's what it'll always come down to. Because at the end of the diet pill, they can they're, you know, Oprah from the big reveal, and they say, look, we've got 750 links that we didn't have before, and we're up in the rankings, and then a year later they're fat Oprah again.
Well, with that in mind, let's. All right, so between, you know, fat Oprah and the other thing, what about budgets? I mean, either you're a startup, like, you know, maybe a few of these people are, or how do you go about making a best determination for your marketing budget? Where's your dollar spend? Do you still do the traditional 30-40-30 split, or you know, what's your recommendation as an expert here?
Make coordinates that one. He's got more gravitas and sucking budget out of big companies.
Right. Great. I like how the gravitas and sucking budget go together. But okay. I guess the way I would answer it is that it really depends on who your target market is, and then where are they located, online or off. So I really don't go with any 30-40-30 at all and so forth. If I'm working at Precision Lender looking for, you know, some boring accountants, you know, sitting in their cubicles with their Excel spreadsheet all day and so forth, that's going to be one strategy versus if I'm targeting a millennial who's, you know, into pop music and everything else, that will be a much different strategy. So I think the look is that A is to truly understand who your audience is, and by what I mean by that is more than just basic demographics. Is that, you know, one of the things that I like to do is that really nail down from the standpoint of doing a lot of social listening and eavesdropping, being flies on the wall when it comes to kind of what people are talking about, developing real personas, you know, that describe in the detail about kind of what makes this person tick, what is he or she like, where do they hang out, online and offline and so forth, and then based on that, put together an effective strategy that will dictate where I should put my money based on where these people congregate.
Yeah, I think with like the startup and the smaller business world, you know, your budget is not your biggest focus. You learn to be very scrappy and you learn to do things with nothing. I mean, my personal budget is like twice the size of my professional budget. So I think a lot of it is about influencer outreach. Like a lot of it is just getting creative and being scrappy and figuring out like how can you reach these people without ads and without you know, all of these different like paid options. And so it's stuff that takes elbow grease, but that is job security for marketers. So, you know, don't like kind of embrace it. I think that sometimes the scrappier options are the most effective marketing tactics. And that can be like, for example, with social media, that can be not reaching out to like your influencer outreach. Don't reach out to the editor of TechCrunch. Look at who the editor of TechCrunch is following. Look at where she is getting her information from. Reach out to that person. That's a way to be really savvy with a little bit of elbow grease. Events. You don't have to buy a ticket to an event. You can just go and network at the after parties. That's where everything happens anyway. Or just sneak. I didn't say, he said sneak in. I'm just saying go to the after parties, get a free beer. No, if you're smart about it, no one will be the wiser, and you'll leave with a bunch of contacts and maybe a little bit of a buzz. So everything will be good for you. All I'm saying here is I don't think it's wise to focus, at least in a startup capacity, too much on your budget. I think you should focus on what you can do with yourself.
So another thing to think about is we have seen the economy turn around. You know, we've gone from, you know, the Great Recession, as they called it, to now we're in a massive hiring range. Do you guys, as a whole, I mean, admittedly, you just started a company, so you created a job right there. So do you see hiring?
Not a paying job, but yeah.
Doesn't matter. It's still employment. At any rate, but do you guys see? I mean, other than Precision Lender, who is hiring, do you guys see, you know, hiring upticking in marketing, at least in the Triangle area this year?
Okay.
I think definitely. I mean, the business in the Triangle area is booming. I think everyone can say that. Absolutely. I think every single one of our companies is hiring. I don't think that's going to go down anytime soon. So this is a great time to be in marketing.
I would only add that it's a great time to be in marketing if you're looking for a job and you don't suck. So the
That.
other part of this is, especially when we're looking for people,
Don't suck.
don't suck. And sometimes, so we're hiring a couple of what is normally called kind of entry level. We think of them as low experience, high potential. So sometimes those people will come in and they'll have nothing on their LinkedIn and they won't tell us anything that shows provable value, that they've done something of importance in their background. Even if you're just doing stuff for yourself, even if you're running a meetup, right? Having stuff that you can point at and say, I did this and I'm proud of it, is a big part of the hiring kind of cycle that happens. Because everybody who's hiring is thinking, is that person going to fit into our culture, and can I have something provable that they're going to do good work? And even if you just got out of college 6 months ago, you should be able to say, here's my blog, and look, my LinkedIn doesn't suck, and I've done this, and here's some other work I've done. Marketing is a lot harder now because you should be leaving footprints wherever you go of great work.
And the one thing I was going to say is that I think it's criminal that anyone today is sending a cold resume into any job. When it comes to you having the capability to engage with, find the people and talk with them. Like, I can't remember the last cold hire I've made in the last several years. Usually I have 3 or 4 people in the queue, the people that I know that I was impressed with, that, you know, everything from, you know, I didn't know Chris. Chris reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, hey, can we grab a cup of coffee and so forth, and then that's why I'm sitting here right now. The last 2 hires I made before I left my job were people who reached out to me ahead of time, you know, whether it be on LinkedIn, Twitter, or something else, and we grabbed lunch, grabbed coffee, or just had you know, an email exchange. And these were people that I had in mind, so when something came up or whatever, I can't remember the last time I posted a job post, or sometimes HR forces you to post the job post so it's public, but I already have people in mind, and it's so easy to track down people that, you know, I would say is that to not hesitate at all. I think some people get intimidated thinking that you're going to bother someone or something, and, you know, if somebody's going to be a dick, okay, well then, you know, no harm, no foul, move on, but, you know, you really have very little to lose by just, you know, looking that person up on LinkedIn and then sending them an email, you know, saying, hey, I saw you on LinkedIn and everything, I'm really interested in this or whatever, you know, do you have 10 minutes for coffee? And, you know, I never turn down those things because I think that's something that's important, and not only that helps me as well as the other people from the standpoint of who I might hire next.
I got a great piece of advice from Jeremy Smith, I don't know, 2009 or something. We were talking, and he was looking to hire someone at the time. He was running a web development team. And he said, every time I talk to someone, they don't know it, but I'm interviewing them. And that stuck in my head, because after that point I thought, I can't be a dick 10% of the time, because that's 10% of the people I talk to who are going to be like, I didn't want to work with that guy, right? But the more you think about it, we're all evaluating people every time we talk to them. So if you can get that in the back of your head, that if you come up and talk to Cord after, or me or Ellen, we're already evaluating you. You know, I've got 4 or 5 people just like Cord that are kind of on the bench, right? And if I need something, and I'm sure you do the same thing, you're like, I know the person for that job. And everybody does that. And it's just as good to be on the bench, right? First one in, when Wally Pipp goes down at first base. Nobody knows that reference.
I do.
Nice.
So you mentioned LinkedIn, Phil. Obviously, running a meetup group. Any other skills or any other suggestions you have? We do have a few people out here who are currently unemployed due to the Triangle area. Any suggestions that Phil or any of the rest of you guys have that they should be doing right now?
I feel like there's a I'm going to go back to scrappy. There's never been a better time to be scrappy about how you go about getting a job. So I don't really believe in doing unpaid work, but I think that volunteering for a good cause is a great way to get your foot in the door. There's a lot of charities and different organizations out there that need help with marketing. That is a great way to grow your portfolio, get experience, network with people, and still be contributing towards something good. I think that if you're offered an internship to do work for a company that's making money, you should get paid. So you should demand that. But I think there's plenty of opportunities, blogging, social media, everything that you can do online. Find a good cause to do it for, network your way in that way. It's a great way to do it.
Yeah, I teach a class at Duke, and it's probably the biggest question that's asked of me. And you know, what I would say is that, so when I either meet someone reaches out to me, or I get a cold resume, the first thing I do is I Google your name and see what comes up. You know, and then look at, you know, the basics. You know, has he or she taken the time to, you know, put together a full LinkedIn profile, has a picture up there that isn't them doing a bong hit from Daytona Beach in '87, you know, and, you know, making it look professional and things of that nature. But then also the other thing I look for is that, and going to kind of what Ellen said, is that my biggest recommendation is that if you're looking for a job right now, you have some time on your hands, write. Okay? And it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have to be in your area of study. You know, so if you're really into basket weaving and everything, start writing about basket weaving. Why? Because I'll read that, and even though I don't know anything about basket weaving, I will see the passion that you have for this, and you will intrigue the hell out of me, and I will want to meet you. So it doesn't necessarily need to be, so if you're like, I want to get in online marketing, but I have no online marketing experience, okay, then don't write about something you don't have experience. Write something that you are passionate about. The passion is what will grab people's attention and so forth. You know, I'll give a quick example, is that there is a woman, she's 69 years old, who lives in Canada, who launched a blog 3 years ago, and she called, her blog name is yarnharlot.ca, okay? And literally the blog is her taking pictures of her hands doing this, you know, and little videos of what is it, knitting, yarning, what, I don't know, I don't even know what it is, but she did this, and then she would crochet, maybe that's it, and then she would write a little paragraph and everything, and she just was fabulous. You got to check it out. You don't even have to do it, but she would write this great, funny, interesting, informative stuff. And her blog caught on like wildfire and everything. She's now written 2 New York Times best-selling nonfiction books and everything. She goes on a book tour. She's 70 years old. She's going on a book tour, and there's a line out the door of other 70-year-old, you know, yarn folks wanting to get her signature. And all she did is that she had a passion for something, and she put it online, and she's now making a really good living at it. So I guess my recommendation to you is that don't worry about what you're trying to get into and stuff. More worry about is that sell yourself and your passion and so forth, because that's I'm gonna want to meet you and learn more about you.
All right, hold on. Question from way in the back.
So we're talking about self-promotion, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
How many people here have seen the Twitter accounts that have nothing but retweets? All this person does is retweet. So we talk about getting active and stuff, right? And I'm thinking of one person that I know. They're not in this room, don't worry.
Phil.
All this person does all day, every day is retweet, 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 retweet. The point that I'm making is she gets a lot of followers because of it, but it doesn't show me that this person has any expertise. So to me, it's kind of a moot point. But as you're evaluating talent, do you actually look and see if that person has actual conversations? And again, and to go a little deeper, do you actually delve into that Twitter profile and look and see if they had a blow up with Kurt Schillinger, like these 2 Yahoos had on Monday? I mean, do you actually do that? Because people say that they do, right? But do you?
I think it depends, right?
Yeah, so I'll answer specifically for if I'm hiring someone. I absolutely will. Fake left goes right. I absolutely do look into I delve into their. You know, I spend more time. Like the resume, probably no more than 2 minutes. That I don't even print out a resume. I just look at it on the computer. 2 minutes, quickly go down, Google search. then what I'll take the time is look through LinkedIn, look through Twitter and stuff, and look at the conversations and so forth, see what they're talking about and everything, because you can really see, so Twitter especially, people tend to be more comfortable on Twitter, so you can kind of see behind the curtain a little bit and so forth. I also look, one of my big things I do is, and this doesn't necessarily knock someone out, but I look for their Facebook page and see if they have actually locked down their Facebook page or not, or allow anyone to see any picture at all. And true story, I hired a woman about 6 months ago and everything who hadn't locked down their page, and she had a bunch of pictures of her in a bikini at Daytona Beach or this or whatever and stuff. And I just said to her, hey, just FYI, everyone can see this and everything. It may not be the greatest idea in the world, totally up to you, but if you're sending out resumes and everything, that may not be something. So I definitely look for those things, and I would definitely be able to tell if this person is just solely retweeting people just for the sake of getting followers. I think social is about creating two-way conversations, and if someone was looking for a social media gig and all they're doing is just retweeting or just posting things and not having those two-way conversations, I would notice.
I've been waiting for someone to own up and say that they actually did that.
I do it, my friend. I promise.
Well, that leads to the next great, the Kurt Schilling comment leads to a great next question. I mean, let's say you're running a brand online and somehow a troll stumbles on you. Do you guys have professional advice as to how to deal with it, minimize it? Sometimes you can block it, but what would you do? Let's say someone starts getting real personal. Like someone who works for Casey Movers.
Yeah, but they didn't come after me. I went after them. They had the problem.
Yeah, he was the troll.
I subscribe a lot to the don't feed the trolls, but I think the best way to do it is if someone came after me. I'm thinking of a friend of mine who had an ex-employee who had just quit or got fired or something, saying terrible things about them online, and he went to 4 or 5 friends and said, can you kind of help me with this? And I think that's the right way to do it, right? You go to people that like your brand and understand you, because you don't want to come out and beat them over the head with a broomstick. But if other people are like, dude, you're overboard, I like that company, or whatever, I think that's what works. Cord's got a good story from Blue Cross Blue Shield of when a troll showed up on day 1 on the forums about how sometimes heading it, just head on, taking care of it, being as honest and frank as you can solve that problem.
Yeah, I guess I don't bore you with. I've had a couple of troll stories when it comes to working with some fairly large brands. I guess what I would say is this: is that I agree with Phil. 98% of the trolls do not have the juice, the following, the audience that's worth your time. So great, Kurt Schilling, he took care of this thing, whatever. Kurt Schilling's an idiot, okay? These two people, they said terrible things about their daughter, but he gave them a lot more publicity than if he just let them alone. If he let them alone, it was, the one guy had like 8 followers to start. Now he has 3,000 followers because Schilling gave him the spotlight, all right? So I guess what I would say is the first question is look at who you're dealing with. If it's a guy in his mom's basement chain-smoking Pall Malls, wearing a muumuu, then just ignore the guy and move on with your life, But then there are other times where, Phil used one example with Blue Cross, and I had another one where the person who came out was an influencer, was someone who had an audience, who carried a big stick, and then you have to engage with them, but you do it in the best, most respectful way, and you never ever lower yourself to their level, especially if you're representing a brand and a company and things like that. But 99% of the time, they are not worth your time. Kick them to the curb and move on with your life.
Yeah.
You'll never beat a troll.
Yeah, I totally agree. Something that's not exactly trolling, but kind of similar. Well, not similar. It's different, but you maybe approach it in the same way. So, with startups especially, you're very there's kind of a danger zone around things like Glassdoor and other review sites where your company doesn't have a lot of reviews yet, whether it's jobs or your product. So, a lot of times people write reviews when they're upset. That's a lot of times the only time that somebody will write a review, unfortunately. I think every startup I've worked at has had a 1 on Glassdoor. Like the first review ever was a 1. And it's because...
First guy got fired, right?
Well, I don't know if it's the first guy that got fired, but somebody who got fired and was upset or something like that. And so, and the reason why that's the first review is because no one thinks to write about it until there's a bad one. And so what I try to do now is constantly encourage my coworkers and anyone who, like, just encourage, as a marketer, you're also the brand advocate. You're also the culture advocate. So encourage your coworkers, encourage people to write reviews. Hopefully they're happy when you encourage them to write them. Encourage your customers to write reviews when you're starting out. That can be so powerful because, like, you know, if you get a 1 review, it takes 3 more to get you back up to a 4. So be proactive about it and try to embrace your reputation in a positive way. Question?
Actually, I'm going to change gears a bit if we're going with the trolls. I got an interesting question. I'm just back to this area after working in Europe for 17 years.
Wow.
And the discussions there are really about, in marketing terms, the integration between social media and technology inside retail spaces. My question then to you is, like, are there any dialogues happening in the United States about, you know, integrating near-field communication or beacon technology inside a retail space, or pop-up events happening inside shopping areas or stores? Is this happening here?
Maybe someone as well in the banking space can talk about that. Have you guys talked about implementing any of that?
So we're not a bank, so we don't have to.
Sorry.
But we talk to banks about things that are going to move stuff forward.
Yeah.
And I talk to people all the time when they say, Apple's implementation of Apple Pay sucks compared to NFC. But the truth is, nobody cares about NFC until Apple has its implementation. So all the lemmings, like me, who else has got an iPhone, right? Then we'll all start doing it, right? Because we'll follow our master down the path. So I think when that stuff starts happening, I think it'll become more commonplace.
Actually, NFC in all of Europe and most of Asia is only your bank cards. For
Right.
example, my card has a chip that is enabling that transaction.
And America's finally getting around to
Right.
that, yeah. To your question about Beacon, so the job I just recently left, one of our clients was Walmart. Walmart is doing some significant tests with beacons. Beacons, I think, are freaking cool. Like, you know, they are, you know, if people aren't familiar with what beacons are, is that they're little cameras attached to the lights that actually constantly take pictures and so forth at like a millisecond, so they can track you all across the store. So they can actually, you know, from the second you walk in, be able to follow you around the store. So if you stop in front of Mayo, okay, in the future, Walmart, if you have Walmart's app, install it on your phone, Walmart can automatically send you a coupon for 25 cents off Mayo and know that you're standing in front of the Mayo aisle and stuff and everything. And there's a whole lot of other different things that beacons can do. So I think it's all about just, right now I think the biggest thing is there are a bunch of different companies like Ibotta and a bunch of other guys who are trying to do, you know, kind of tie in-store retail stuff. I think the big thing is that just it hasn't gotten to the point where people are, you know, I think Phil gave, like, several years ago, I think one of the best answers, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but one of the best answers to someone asked you about QR codes. And Phil said at some conference we were talking about, Phil said, you know what, the issue is that, you know, it takes work. You gotta grab your phone, you have to turn it on, you have to find your QR app, you have to find that, then you have to stick it in front of, you know, the QR code and then line it up to make it work and stuff. I think that's still the problem with a lot of these things. That's where Beacon, you know, that really it will track you, but then you run into the whole Big Brother thing. So I think it's definitely coming. I just think, you know, like America, like everything else, we're slower than what's happening in Europe.
All right, so let's say you're out of the space. This is almost a follow-up to that question, but on beacons, there's a company, AdNet, that's in San Francisco, actually setting up drones over street tops as you walk down. It tracks your, I think it's either your Wi-Fi or your cellular strength, and as you're walking down, it starts pushing messages into your own Google space ads. So think, you know, PPC, but it's doing that. Does that broach something because now you're not in the space? you're an innocent consumer walking down the
Yeah,
street?
I think just a lot of people are trying a bunch of different things as usual, throw up stuff against the wall, see what sticks. I actually have a friend who has a startup in San Francisco who his startup is, they have an app where they're selling it to bars, restaurants, and so forth, where you walk in, and if you accept the app, it looks at your library of music on your phone and picks the ones that you've played most, and that dictates what is played in the restaurant. So to choose, so all of a sudden you're like, hey, I love this song. Oh my God, I love this song, because it actually knows what's on your phone and so forth. So it's one of those things where just, some people think it's the coolest thing ever, other people think it's very Big Brother-ish and, don't want to play. So I guess it's, kind of, what floats your boat and how comfortable you are with these
More
things.
Bee Gees.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Well, it brings in another good point because, as everyone knows, most of the social media channels are going pay to play. Of course, this is more aimed at you. I'd love to mention, we talked about this at coffee the other day, the process of identifying advocates amongst fans. Sure. And then how to move them from the paid play sites to your own proprietary. Yeah. Could you walk us through that?
Sure. I think specifically with social media, I think social media is going through a very interesting shift at the moment. If you're not familiar with Facebook, has Facebook went public. Now Mr. Zuckerberg actually has shareholders that he has to answer to and so forth. So before, brands spent a whole lot of money, creating these communities, and then you could post stuff out to the communities. But now, what's called organic reach is down to between 2% and 6%. So one of the most common misnomers is that people don't, people think, okay, well I have 5,000 fans, I have 10,000 fans. When I post something, all 10,000 fans see my post. Today, only about 2 to 6%, depending on how well your content is performing, is seeing your post. So a lot of brands, especially the larger brands, are really pissed off. So at Ignite, I led Chrysler. Chrysler was my client and so forth. So so Dodge has 3.2 million fans on Facebook. They spent millions of dollars creating this community. To have contests, create great content, pay a social media channel, and now out of those 3.2 million, 2 to 4% is seeing on an average basis. So now they have to invest another $25,000 to $50,000 a week just to get their content out to the people they've already paid to become fans in the first place. And Twitter has already announced that they are moving to an algorithm. Why? Because Twitter has seen that Facebook made $2 billion last quarter on promoted posts. So they are going that way. Instagram has been bought by Facebook. Guess what's going to be coming with Instagram in the future? This is happening all over. So all of a sudden, a lot of brands and a lot of marketers are asking themselves, well, what the hell am I going to do? Because I can't see an ROI for my social media work if I'm paying this amount of money just to get the people I've already paid to get to become a fan. So really why I left and started this company is really focused around identifying, so in these large groups of communities that brands have made, some of these people, kind of signed up because you were running a contest and they wanted a chance to win a car or do something else or whatever and really don't care about your brand. And then there's a small subset in this group that are actually really into your brand, love your product, love your services and so forth, but they are the minority and so forth, and it's very tough to get to them now because Facebook's making you pay, and secondly, you don't necessarily know who these people are in these large things. So what I've been working on with some clients is being able to identify advocates within your CRM, email database, or social channels that people will self-identify themselves literally by, and I didn't make, this is far from brain surgery, all I do is ask them, okay? I just ask a single question. How likely are you to recommend this brand in the future? 1 through 10, okay? 10 being very good, 1 being sucky. Anyone who gives me 1 to 6 and everything, I kick them to the curb. Hey, thank you very much, have a nice day. 7 or 8 are passives, they're okay, I'll keep them for later. 9s and 10s are my advocates. And all of a sudden, over a period of time, I can create a database of pure advocates, guys who've raised their hand and said, I love you guys, and this database of advocates starts to become really valuable over time. And then all of a sudden is you need to start treating them just like a channel in its own right. You need to create premium content to keep these guys engaged. Because one of the biggest problems I think a lot of brands are having is they run great contests, they run great campaigns, people sign up for this stuff, and then when it's over, the budget is over, okay, you know, and then these guys wither away and die in the vine because they're just sitting there doing, where the hell did everyone go, you know? So that's really what, you know, I believe is kind of the next step is that, you know, we started with fans and followers. Then we have influencers, and I think influencers are an important thing, but I think influencers are, to me, are very similar to a media buy, which is that you're paying money to people to talk about you. The second that money runs out, you know, radio silence and so forth. So then the next step for me is advocates. Advocates are people that you don't have to pay, you just have to give them stuff of value, and that stuff of value usually is content, you know, and then giving them a place to be able to have a two-way conversation with you and make them feel involved. I always use the kind of velvet rope analogy, you know, when you go to a club and your big bouncer has that stupid velvet rope and makes some people's, so I want my advocates to feel really special. I'm letting them in. You know, they gave me the thumbs up. I love the brand and so forth, and I'm going to let them in. I'm going to treat them special. I'm going to treat them as that subset. And that's really kind of what Advocacy Social is all about. Yeah, sir.
So I was just, I've been doing this campaign on Facebook for a client, and I'm realizing, it's funny, I just realized this yesterday too. I'm realizing that the reach is the same every single week. But every post I'm noticing gets better every time, and reach-wise. So I thought, this is strange. So I go back over the last week, calculated all the individual post reach, and then compared it to what Facebook told me was the reach. Facebook told me 130. My calculation, 360. So Facebook is screwing up somewhere and lying about it, and nobody freaking cares to say something about it. I mean, it goes beyond their algorithm. I mean, this is blatant lying.
Yeah, you know,
and
so
I've been a big not fan of Facebook, so I.
Yeah.
So I mean, this just gives me more fuel, and nobody wants to talk about the.
Why would Facebook say that your reach was smaller than what they want the number to be as big as possible? Maybe they're going to fluff it.
No, they want it to be lower.
They want it to be lower, so you buy promote post. So I guess I would say is, let's say everything you just said was all correct, right? And I'm saying let's say everything's correct. So what do? You know, so it's Facebook is still the biggest guy on the block. Okay. Already, you know, any brand has put a good deal of time and money into establishing the community. It's not going away anytime soon. You just you're gonna have to deal with kind of the cards that you've been dealt, which is why, you know, my focus is that, okay, so instead of just having to deal with Facebook's rules and their ridiculous algorithms, is that I want to identify my true advocates and so forth and try to get around that. But yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's just you know, the cards we've been dealt with Facebook these days.
I think Gordon hits a good point in knowing who your advocates are. If you're running a business or working for a business, if you can't point to 3 or 4 people that love you, you're probably doing it wrong already. You know, you should already know your absolute best customers. If this was 50 years ago and everybody in here ran a deli, you don't know your best customers who came in every day for lunch. But somehow online, we don't feel like that's nearly as important. And it's just, I think it's partly just the space we're in. Is we have to do a better job of really loving those best advocates for us. So one of the things about online and offline, so since our customers for Precision Lender aren't huge online nerds, we found 6 or 8 that love us, and we said, come to North Carolina, to Pinehurst, we're going to do a client advisory board. So these are people we already know love us, right? They tell all their friends about us, they give us feature requests all the time, they're always on the phone with us. So we're doing what digitally is doing the velvet rope, we're doing that in real life for them. You know, we'll fly them in, give them a weekend to Pinehurst. Oh, and there's a day in there where we're going to talk to you and film the shit out of you and get all sorts of stuff we can use on the website. Like, we're going to do a lot of work in that day before we send them off to golf with their spouse and stay at a nice resort. And it's the exact same thing. If you can do that in real life, you should be able to do it on the digital front too.
All right, next question for Ellen. Get back up.
Between two
So-
shitty guys.
Between two ferns.
Hey, now.
That's right.
So, how important, you know, when we talked about some social stuff, some, you know, website stuff, but, you know, how important is road mapping now for website development, especially from your perspective in the startup space?
Yeah,
Written down.
I know, I do have it written down, but I also have it in here. It's really important. This is actually, I think, one of the biggest challenges at any company, the biggest like real world challenge. So my advice with road mapping your website is to stick to less than 5 initiatives. Like, try to narrow down to what your most important goals are for the year. You really have to stay focused. You can't do everything to your website. It's just not going to happen. You really have to focus on what it is that's super important. I suggest less than 5 of those things. Roadmap them at the beginning of the year, and every quarter get together with like your core team, whoever's involved with your website, and figure out how you're doing on them. Adjust them if needed, but stick to those core things. I feel like with road mapping, like at the beginning of the year, it's so important to start your road mapping there, because if you get too sucked into trends, you're going to be going back and forth on your website all the time, and that is like a losing game. And also, if you're that into trends for your website, you probably have a bigger problem. Like, you need to figure out what it is that you are, what your purpose is, and what you're after, and focus and narrow in on those things. That's my advice.
Okay.
You guys have
Wait.
I was going to say, as someone who redeveloped his website, my understanding is Precision Lender has a new website in the last few months. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would say the only 2 things I'd add to that is 5 is probably too many.
Yeah,
As
it probably is.
She didn't want to say right out loud, but 1 or 2 is better. And it gets back to what's the core message that you want to go out there, right? So the thing we sell is to lenders to make better loans. So our core message is win more deals. We say that in everything we put out there. That's our core message. If you buy our product, your bank will win more deals. That's easy to understand. Bankers know exactly what that means. They want more profits, they want to be more profitable, they want to win more deals. So when I see sites that have 7 slider images at the top, I think, those poor bastards can't figure out what they want to talk about. They got 7 things they're trying to get me to look at. And the truth is, we don't look at any of them, right? We start scrolling looking for something else. So it's all about focus. And if you've got 5 things you're trying to focus on, that's tough.
I said less than 5.
Right, no, I get it. Sometimes it's hard to get that out of a client.
It is, it's very hard.
To each of you, I mean, is there a certain, I mean, in your industry, is there a certain platform or platforms that create the best ROI? I mean, especially in startups, because there are a bunch of entrepreneurs in the room, but, you know, banking is the most unusual cat because of rules and regs. Is there something you've found that works best? I mean, I know it's open.
I think it so depends on your culture and your audience. It is completely different for every company. For us, we have found that Quora is really helpful, as is Reddit. Some of those more like message board type discussion platforms. Content that you can repost on, like reposting content platforms like Medium, LinkedIn Pulse, those have been really awesome for us. But I think it really, really depends on your particular company. Every company I've been with, we have had different platforms that worked best for us. So there's not like a one-fix-all platform.
And I just add, you also would depend on what your definition of ROI is. You know, so depending on what the company is and what they do is that, you know, your ROI could be, if you're e-commerce, obviously straight revenue. When it comes to, you know, like I would take a wild guess with Phil, it would be around generating leads. you know, to brand awareness, engagement,
Yeah.
things like that. So I think it just, you again just need to properly define kind of what your success metrics are, and then from there is that figure out, you know, where the best place to go.
For me, the one thing I would say is, especially if you're early on, don't focus on scale. Focus on real one-to-one human communication. So
Yeah.
the other day, when I got an email from Cord, even though it came out through MailChimp or whatever you sent that thing,
It was personalized.
it was a personalized email
It said,
to
"Hey,
me,
Phil."
and probably, I don't know, what, 100 people, maybe 200 people that you sent that to? Something like
Okay.
that. Whatever it was, right? His LinkedIn connections or something. But he sent it to people that he knew. It wasn't like, I'm going to buy a list and send this out. So when I got it, I was excited. I hadn't heard from Cord for a while. I immediately yelled at my wife, Cord started his company. Like, I was excited. And that's worth so much more than almost anything else, is to get that real human interaction. And so I write back to Cord, he writes back to me. So even if he sent it to 10,000 of his closest friends, he was smart enough to reply, you know, relatively quickly after I sent him back and said, hey, I'm proud of you. I love human communication. I love hanging out with all of you people and grabbing a beer after and all that stuff. To me, that's the best.
Phil will be giving hugs later on.
I will.
And honestly, isn't that where Google is going with the update in June or July that we had in June or July of last year? I mean, isn't that what what Google effectively said? That's what they want, is the real one-to-one communication.
When I try to think about where I think Google is going, I think about if I was the czar of Google,
Hey, can you
what would I
Can you
do?
repeat the question? So,
Yeah.
No. He said, does he think that's where Google's going? The
Well, I was
one-to-one?
just reiterating the fact that the idea of one-to-one communication is essentially what Google is trying to do. They're trying to get rid of the idea of black hat SEO, and they effectively did that with the last update. And I mean, gray hat still exists, but this whole idea of one-to-one communication, isn't that effectively where Google is trying to keep things?
Where Google wants to go is to give you the perfect results for you at that moment when you're looking for them. And they're going to try everything under the sun to get to that, at least for the paid ones, right? The organics ones, they can be good enough. But the paid ones need to be perfect for you. And whatever they have to do, they're going to keep tweaking it to get to that end. So having done SEO for a long time, you can fight Google, but it's not like it's a mystery where they're going. You know, they're incredibly clear that they want to have great user experience, they want to give you personalized results, and they want to try to give you good results. I won't say great, but
That's to a
good
certain extent
results.
where we're all going. Websites are all going to be personalized for content based on who you are, what role you are in the organization. The emails you get are all personalized based on where you've gone, what you've seen, 5 or 6 different things you might have gone and seen. Every company is ultimately going towards this micro-targeting.
Right.
Following Google, if you will.
Yeah.
But it's all of our goals.
I mean, how many times have you guys, you're already a customer of someplace that's retargeting you, and you keep seeing their ads, and you're like, damn it, I'm already a customer. Stop retargeting me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's getting there.
What,
Oh, we have one more.
that's a great question.
You.
No, you-
I have a question for you guys. So, what are your thoughts about native ads? What are your thoughts on them? I'm sorry.
You're talking about like with the cover of what was it, Forbes? That or?
Yeah, it's. I guess it's more like content-based advertising, because I know like sometimes people look at it as.
So like BuzzFeed kind of stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Did you hear the question? You want me? You heard it? Okay, great. So I think that any advertising that's better than placing a stupid ad on the right rail is a good thing. So I think BuzzFeed has done an excellent job when it comes to creating good content that people will want to read while promoting a brand or product or service. So I think that, you know, I see, you know, kind of content and advertising kind of melding together as one, which is, can you create really interesting content that provides value, that informs, educates, makes someone laugh, makes someone cry, whatever it might be, while at the same time promoting your product, your brand, your service, whatever it might be. So anything that is interesting and more outside the box than a stupid banner ad or something like that, or whatever, I think is at least a step in the right direction.
Sure.
Yeah.
Next question. A lot of times in business, if you can make small incremental changes, you're going to get a better end result. Are there common mistakes that marketers make every day that they could stop? And if so, what are they to improve what they're already doing? Probably. But I mean, in your experience, have there been mistakes that you've made in the past, or stuff that you've seen that you could enlighten the crowd as to things you can do better by doing a smaller change instead of this huge website redesign?
Well, I mean, when I started at Precision Lender, I noticed that all of their ads, some Google ads, not much, a couple $100 a month, all went to the home page. So it's a horrible place to have advertising land, right? Because the purpose of your home page is to get people off the home page. So I'm about halfway through that process of pushing them to better landing pages, but I think that's a pretty common thing that a lot of small businesses run into, is they think, well, I'll spend some money on ads and then I'll just dump them on the home page.
Stuff in startups that you've seen?
Yeah, I think one thing that's really common with startups is being overextended as a marketer, which is typically a symptom of saying yes to everything and not being focused on your strategy. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes you can make. You've got to stay focused, you've got to stay true to what you're doing, and just tell everyone else, like, very nicely, fuck off, basically, you know. But you got to stay focused on what it is that you're aiming for. And I think the other thing is, as marketers, we need to be more positive. I think that it's very easy to like get down on your job in marketing. It can be really tough. People can seem to hate on you a lot. You're always asking people for things, you know. I think that we do ourselves a disservice by being negative, by being more positive about what it is that we're doing, by complimenting our coworkers outside of marketing, and by really being interested in what they're doing. We can get buy-in on our initiatives. It's about being positive about the entire brand and about the culture, and the more positive we can be, the better we're going to get that buy-in from other people.
The only thing I was going to say is I think this goes across for brands as well as each and every one of us here when it comes to that, is just bring yourself to the table. People look for humanity. You know, like, you know, even the largest brands down to an individual and stuff and everything, show who you are and what you're about. You know, that's what differentiates and separates you from other people and stuff. You know, show your personality. Don't be afraid to be an actual human being. I think a lot of brands try to homogenize and vanilla everything, and they're boring as shit, you know? And I think that's the same exact thing as individual Twitter accounts or individual social channels at times, is that, you know, people try to be ultra button up and so forth, and I get that and stuff, but also I think there's a happy medium between, you know, showing your professionalism, showing your expertise, but also bringing a little personality to the table that shows kind of who you are and what you're about and what makes you tick, because that's what people gravitate to, and not just kind of facts, figures, and pretty pictures.
All right, this question is for Ellen. You know, the country as a whole is 58% female, but yet marketing tends to be...
Is that right?
Probably, I mean,
No, it's plain.
men die younger, so.
That is
And
true.
women are smarter, so.
I'm going to check that out. I don't believe in this.
But at any rate, you know, that being the case, you know, marketing and even development continues to be dominated by men. Any tips for young women marketers, how to break in, how to be known, how to get to the field you're in?
Yeah, I think maybe I have tips for both men and women.
Fair enough.
If I can go there.
Metro man.
So I think, I'll start with women, I guess, since that was the question. I think I think that women can coach themselves and or find a coach to help them be more persuasive. I think that there's a lot of things that we do that kind of sell ourselves short. One thing I always do is, like, every time I write an email, I read back over at the end and take out all of the I thinks and I'm sorries and maybes. It's something that, like, as women, I don't know why, but we use those words a lot, and it cuts, you know, it's doing us a disservice. So I think we need to be more, not say I think, and just say we need to be more persuasive, and we need to help each other out in that way. I think another thing for women is to kind of own it. In tech, I actually really enjoy being a woman. I think that it gives me a unique perspective. I think that most men in tech are actually excited to have women around. When I'm in a meeting, I think I get listened to more because of that. So I think that if you can own it and enjoy it, then that's going to help you if you see the advantages to it. For men, this is kind of, I guess it's a blanket statement, so I'll try not to do that, but I think that the men that I know who are the men that I know who are the most successful are the ones who are the best listeners.
What?
You're not going to go very far.
Don't worry, I'm self-employed.
So even more reason to listen. So Nick and Brian, who are our founders at Smashing Boxes, they are two of the best listeners I have ever met. And I think that they're successful because of that. You know, they truly listen when customers are talking. They listen to clients, even if it's not a great idea. They listen to their employees. Every time I'm talking to them, they hear me out. And I think that that's a huge advantage to men, is if they can hone in on those listening skills.
What she said. Oh yeah, what she said. Okay. This is a general question to y'all, because, and this is for a specific space to put into your own experience. But because we are trying to help students connect, and we are trying to help connect jobs. But we have several recruiters in the room. What would you recommend for a recruiting company, especially smaller ones, trying to cut through the noise? Because if you Google recruiting company Raleigh, you get a phone book.
I mean, not just a recruiting company Raleigh, but if you go to Indeed, you know, you see so many jobs out there. How do you see a company kind of standing out beyond the space?
So, can you raise your hand if you're a recruiter? Are there any recruiters here?
Aren't we all?
What were you all?
Right, so that's a good point. So that's what I was kind of wondering. So as far as recruiting for your own company, I think it's a little bit different if you're working for a recruiting company. But when you're working, if you're a recruiter for a company, you are a marketer and a salesperson for your culture. You do the same thing that you do in marketing for your culture. So it's about spreading brand awareness. It's about being nice to everybody. It's what I think you said earlier about, you know, people remember you. People remember that 10% of people that you're not nice to, or 10% of people who aren't going to work for you. It's that. But it's also, it's marketing your brand. It's marketing your culture.
Yeah. I don't deal with recruiters, so I have nothing to recommend on that. I think for when it comes to people looking for jobs, is that you know, is through networking, is through what I talked about before, which is reaching out to people and stuff. You know, as I said before, there's just not an excuse to send a cold resume in these days and so forth and everything. You'll see that 90% of the people, if you reach out to them, they will reach back, and because they're, you know, most people are generally good folks and so forth and everything. I actually reached out to someone about 2 weeks ago, and I know she frickin' received my email, okay, because she looked me up on LinkedIn and so forth, and then she didn't respond, and I was like, what's up with that? And now LinkedIn keeps having her pop up, do you know this person? Do you know this person? Do you want to connect with this person? And finally I was like, X, you know, and I just, and that was the first time in a long time someone didn't even bother respond, you know, like, if you don't agree, just reply back, hey, you know, not interested, or sorry, can't do it at this time, whatever. You know, be a human being, and so yeah, so.
All right, this is a glass ball kind of question. The following question: 2015 will be the year of, in your own words,
Red Sox World Series.
Yeah, sure, like Spurgeon did.
Right, yeah. 2015 was the year of. I think it's the you know, I don't know. The first thing that came to my mind is that it's the year of quality content. You know, that just and this, it could have probably been 2014, could have been a year of the same thing, 2013, but just people aren't very good at it yet, or at least, and so I think more and more people are beginning to realize that content, you need time, money, resources, and all these things to develop good content, when in the past I've seen that usually the content piece is left to the end, and oh, we'll write something up and everything. So I think people are beginning to learn for that, and so you know, that's what came to my head.
2015 is the year of intention.
Of what?
Intention. I think that, at least for my team, it's not about catching up all the time. It's about being very focused on a few goals and working our butts off to accomplish them.
Is that a plug for the Focus movie?
It's a plug for what?
Focus, the movie.
I've seen that.
All right, well, Phil has said the series. I want to open it up to the floor of any general Q&A for our speakers. Just make sure we state questions.
I know you guys are both tech savvy, and are all three. And when you're developing software, lately in the last 10, 15 years, Scrum has been a really effective way for middle and small companies to see what fits, you know. Has that methodology of Scrum, did you ever copy and paste that into a marketing process? Is that happening? Like you have, yeah, so nodding, like, would that be in middle-sized organizations or larger ones? Like the entire same Scrum format you have in, like, do I need to describe what
Can I add something to that?
Sure.
The Marketo Roadshow that was here at SAS a little while ago, not too long ago, they talked a lot about building that marketing funnel on top of the sales funnel, but they also talked about taking that agile development methodology that is a part of development cultures now. It's just about everybody's moved from waterfall to agile, but that really applies very well to lots of disciplines. And they've taken it to marketing and said, you know, marketing is a very apt place to put an agile, you know, every 2-week check-in, everybody stands up and presents their stuff every 2 weeks type of methodology, because it really keeps people on their toes and it keeps the content flowing.
Yeah, so I can't speak as much to Scrum specifically, but for agile methodologies, I think,
the same.
okay, it is, okay. So it's definitely something that I think we've adopted. If you go online and read like the Agile Manifesto, I think it's something that you can definitely replicate in marketing. You know, it's just about being, like you said, meeting every 2 weeks, being lean, bringing prototypes to meetings, like that kind of stuff. You know, just yeah. I think it's definitely say that word.
I don't know what word you're trying to say. Reputable?
Recommend.
Recognizable?
Replicatable.
Replicatable. Thank you.
There we go. I was going to say, I think Scrum, Agile, these are all things that definitely, you know, as you said, can be moved to marketing as well as a number of other areas. I think that the only thing I would add to that is that I've seen at times where people are trying to move so fast that they miss some foundation pieces to this thing, and they just want to start running and get down that funnel, when if you don't have put in some legwork to lay some, I like to call them pillars, foundation, whatever it is, that really are stakes in the ground that says, here are, you know, our main pillars and stuff and everything. Everything else you build on that. If you don't have those stakes in the ground, everything you do, I think you're going to do kind of a 2 steps up, 1 step back scenario. So usually what I like to do is that take some time in the beginning to lay that proper foundation, get on the same page and so forth, and then you can really start sprinting.
I think the bigger the company, the more effective it is too. So like where we are, there's no hierarchy. There's only a few of us, so we kind of self-Kanban through the process. But if there's 100 people in your marketing department, I think there's a huge upside to it.
All right, question right there. I have a question regarding content. I have a video production company. I work with small, medium-sized businesses developing content. How is that important in everything that you talked about as far as, you know, SEO and, you know, getting people to talk about you, branding, etc. going forward?
How is video specifically important?
Yeah, I mean, in general, but I mean specifically, how do you view video going forward?
My last company, which was a product software company, video was extremely effective for us because we were able to do a lot of, like we recorded our webinars and did a lot of video, like demos with video, and we were able to like put those on YouTube and grow our SEO tremendously. Sorry, my throat is really dry. So I think in that case it was really, really useful. With the company I'm at now, you know, if we were going to create video, it would be more around our brand, and it would just be very expensive. And so I think that's the trouble with that, but I think it can be very useful for spreading brand awareness as well.
So when the year of the 2015 question, I actually went back and forth on saying, I initially thought I was going to say video, and then I went broader and went with just content. But
that's why I asked the question, because I wanted you to.
Okay, okay. Well, we're on the same page. So I think that with you know, mobile devices and, you know, us having the bandwidth to be able to consume video on mobile devices, I think video is becoming a bigger and bigger area to be able to market yourself with, to be able to create two-way conversations. I think that also is that a little disagreeing with what you said is that I think video, there are opportunities that you can do video that's rather inexpensive, kind of lo-fi stuff and everything. I know for more, you know, really runs the gamut of kind of cheap to, you know, ultra premium stuff and everything. But there are a number of brands out there that are doing some really interesting lo-fi stuff, which I know probably doesn't help you since you're trying to sell your services. But I think video is going to be real important moving forward. I think that it is a real interesting way to be able to introduce a brand, product, show off the brand, show your culture on that. We've seen a lot of examples of kind of startups that really hit it perfectly with a viral video that got them started. What's popping in my head was what Dollar Shave Club, you know that the guy spent $1,000 on that video, that first video that was viewed, you know, what, 5 million times and so forth and everything, and got, you know, crashed his website and everything because he had a funny idea of a video and everything, and it worked. That doesn't happen all the time, but I think video is real important. The other thing, I can't believe I'm saying, maybe I should leave this for Phil with SEO, but the other part is, one thing people forget is YouTube is the second largest search engine out there after Google. You know, so even, you know, so I don't think you can ignore when it comes to A, video, and B, then optimizing your video to make sure that, you know, not only are you creating good videos, but then your videos come up in search results. That I think what is a step that a lot of people forget, just basic optimizing of your video so that they come up both in Google as well as YouTube search results.
What's the right length of a video?
You know what, you know, maybe you guys know, I don't think there is a right length. I think, you know, for me is, I consider every human being on the web an 8-year-old with the worst case of ADD in the world, okay? So I think you have a very, very small window to grab people's attention, whether that is on a website or a video, you know, so.
How many seconds?
Minute to or less.
Yeah, I think, again, it depends on who your target audience is. If your target audience is younger millennials, I think that number is much less, okay? Because millennials have,
less
you
than
know,
30 seconds?
Yeah, I think you have, that's what I was going to say. For millennials, you have probably less than 15 seconds to try to grab their attention. As you get older, I think you know, from a demo, and also it depends on what it is. So, again, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. The great thing about this is that you can test the shit out of this stuff, okay, you know? So come out with a couple different videos and everything, one 15 seconds, one 30 seconds. Change your stuff around, do A/B testing and everything. It's not gonna cost you a penny to put up a couple of other videos. It may take you a little longer to cut these things and so forth, but you could really test to see what is performing the best. And that's what I was gonna say, is a lot of things we're talking about here is that I throw so much stuff up against the wall just to see what works or not. Like, the great thing about social media specifically is it's a giant focus group. And so, like, a lot of times I'll just throw things out there and see what kind of feedback I get back and everything, just to take some key learnings and then be able to, you know, be that much better the next time around.
So what if I told you guys that my 8-year-old, the perfect length video for him is about 25 minutes. He watches 25-minute video after 25-minute video after 25-minute video all night long until it's bedtime about Minecraft. Does that work for you? 25 minutes at a time?
He's also
for an
heavily,
8-year-old?
he's also heavily medicated.
No, but what I'm trying to get at is there's no right length if it's good. It's like all the other content on the web. If it's shitty content, 10 seconds is too much. I've already thrown up and moved on. But if you can get me in the first 10 seconds, I watched 3 House of Cards last night. That's a long time, right?
The first 3? I heard they suck.
They're good.
I finished them. I finished it.
Yeah, I finished it too. I'm regretting missing the whole season in a day.
But it's the same as everything else. You've got a few seconds to grab them, and then the next few seconds to grab them to keep them for the next 10 seconds. You can't say, I'm going to get to the good stuff 45 seconds in. Nobody's going to give you that much time.
All right, well, it is 8 o'clock. I know we do have minutes, but
someone else can. Did you have a question? That's. Yeah.
I was going to ask about target markets and just how important do you feel it is for a business owner or developing web content to know your target market and relating that to producing good content.
I'd say that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Why would you produce content for anybody who's not going to come to your website? Right? All of our stuff is aimed at bankers, the executive team at banks. We don't care if anybody else comes to the site because they're not going to buy our product. It's all aimed at like 4 people. Everything we do.
Can you give some advice on maybe how you guys find your target market in your field of work that you do?
Ours is easy because we know exactly who buys it. But the thing to do is talk to the people who are buying it now and try to get a better feel for them. I think it's harder the more horizontal your market is. Like if you're selling shampoo, that's a big ass market, right? So I think it's going to depend very much on who you're trying to sell to, how you can kind of crimp that down. And maybe you've got a few different personas you're going to work at.
You hit a good thing there. So you got a horizontal market, so you got to hit a lot of people, and you want to make videos, right? Can you risk like doing a lot of niche videos for the same product?
Yeah,
that's what I asked about.
Absolutely,
Yeah, I think you
absolutely,
can.
absolutely. I think for the longest time, people tried to carry the biggest net possible to try to catch as much as they can, and it failed miserably. I would say is if you have a horizontal market and stuff and everything, pick your top priorities. Pick your one and dive deep. I'm talking about get as niche, right? Niche. You know what I'm saying.
We're both doing it.
Go as specific and detailed as possible. It is not. You don't go men, women, 25 to 45 who like long walks on the beach. Okay, you know it's not. You have to go much more specific and everything when it comes to what they specifically like, what floats their boat, what they don't like, how they react, what their mindsets are. Drive as deep as you can and get as specific as you can with the content. Because the more specific you get, the more that people will be like, hey, they are talking to me, they understand me. And if you're horizontal, just prioritize. Start with one, see how that works, and then try to replicate it as you go. But I think the more broad you go, the less you're going to get out of it.
You guys remember that commercial a couple of years ago in the Super Bowl with the boy dressed as Darth Vader, the Volkswagen commercial?
Yeah.
Volkswagen, or their agency, looked at the affinity groups among people who buy Volkswagens. You know what the #1 affinity group was? Star Wars fans. Right? So they figured it out. They can still carry a moderate-sized net because they know people who buy Volkswagens generally love Star Wars, so they made a kick-ass commercial using that information.
Phil, do you guys, Precision Lender, are you guys using sources like data.com or Hoover's or D&B to
We've got the
target?
federal government. So every single bank needs to register with the FDIC.
So you just go there?
Yep.
So, but there you're able to find the titles and everything of the people you need because
Yep.
they're registered as well. So that's easy enough. All right.
We're very
Do
lucky.
you recommend other businesses where it's not teed up so nicely for them use sources of data like that to build their segments and find the people that it's going to be hard driving them to their content unless they actually start targeting them and pay for those types of lists?
Yeah, I think anytime, so like I said before, if you can find out some good information and connect with the most important people, like right now we're targeting 128 banks for the entire year. We could really sit down every day and write a letter to each one of those banks, right? So you guys could probably do the same thing. There's probably 100 people that would just knock your socks off if you could get those customers this year. It's a great way to start and just say, let's do everything we can to get these people to know about us, to talk about us, to do that sort of stuff, right? It gets back to the DIY influencers. You can build your own influencers in that market. And if you got to get them through data.com or one of those, that's okay.
I know we have to go. I was just going to say is that with the launch of my new company and stuff, is either yourselves, businesses, or referrals, if anyone's interested, we will do a free social media analysis on your brand, okay? All your channels and everything. We will give you information that I don't care what you have. It will be incredibly valuable for free. We'll do a free analysis and so forth. advocacysocial.com, and you can sign up right there, and you can learn something for free, and then maybe we can do business.
Thanks again, guys. And thanks.